What is up, everybody? We are back. It is actually season 2, episode 1, with our very special guest, Stacy. Stacy, I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little about yourself.
I'm Stacy Coolball. So I am a licensed realtor in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then also I'm a licensed broker in North Carolina, Western North Carolina, but also Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. And what got you into real estate?
In the healthcare industry, and then I just decided that it wasn't for me. I didn't want to be in it anymore. And I've always had an interest in real estate. I've relocated. So I used to live in North Carolina, then I lived in Ohio, and then relocated here 6 years ago. So have relocation experience, right? Have experience buying homes, moving. But the commission side of it is what scared me. You know, when you're used to salary, that's what scared me. Yeah, so I was really into real estate. I just decided to research a ton and take the leap, and I don't regret it.
Nice. Awesome. So, I think it's great. I think maybe more agents should have to go through the healthcare system before they become real estate agents, because it's going to teach you 2 things that you definitely need. You need to care about people, right? And you definitely have to have a ton of patience. So I think that speaks volumes about you. You definitely have both, right?
Right.
Yeah. So when you relocated, where did you move from? Where did you move to? You said you relocated twice. Would you share with us?
So from like Hickory, North Carolina. It's about an hour from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And then so moved there to the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio. And then moved from Columbus, Ohio to here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you went to Columbus, did you do real estate there too, or just North Carolina? And
yeah, I didn't do real estate in Ohio. I was still in the healthcare field. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. So, what would you say where you are? You're in Pittsburgh now, right? Primarily based in Pittsburgh now.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there like a part of Pittsburgh that you service more than another part, or just like the general Pittsburgh area?
Not really. So the funny thing about Pittsburgh is a lot of agents don't want to cross the tunnel or the bridges, right? They're like, I do the South Hills and I do the North Hills. And I'm like, over here, when I was a new agent, I'm like, I don't give a shit about a bridge, right? Like,
yeah,
the traffic sucks. Yes, it does. But I'm like, I'll do Seven Springs because we have a lot of people that live here. It's an hour from here, but it's like a ski place. Hidden Valley and Seven Springs. And so a lot of people that live here buy second homes there. And it's actually where I got my first listing, was down there.
Yeah. So you want to hear something really funny? I've stayed there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So that's where I stayed. So my commute was from Hidden Valley for 2 weeks over to the PNC Medical Center. So it was, I know the tunnel, that big rock face tunnel that you're talking about.
It's the way all the way in.
I could say, coming from Long Island, that's not traffic. You guys can embrace that wholeheartedly. Like, that is a smooth ride. And now with podcasts as popular as they are, that's an easy one.
Yeah. I mean, it can be bad when there's like games and stuff. I mean, it is bad, but I just went to New York for the first time last year in October. So I completely agree with you. It's nothing compared to that.
No. And did you visit Long Island while you were here? Or did you just mostly stay in the city?
Just mostly in the city. Yeah.
All right. So we'll do a Long Island tour for you one day, and we'll include 5 o'clock rush hour coming from Manhattan out to the East End during the summertime. What's only maybe about 100 miles could take you, 3 or 4 hours to do. It's so brutal. Like, you just sit. I remember the longest it ever took me to go 8 miles from Manhattan on to Long Island. It took an hour and 45 minutes to do 8 miles. And I just was like, this is impossible. You're basically driving backwards and then forwards again. It's a lot. So,
right.
So that's good insight, though. I'm glad you said that. Vacation homes up in Hidden Valley for the ski, and then down into the city. So you touched on sports. Are you a sports person? Can you tell us a little about what the sports availability is in Pittsburgh?
So I'm not going to lie, I am not a sports person really, but in Pittsburgh, you have to support sports, right? So if you look at some of my TikToks or some of my social media things, or just if I'm like running around town and I'm in lounge clothes, I will typically have a Pirates hat or a Steelers hat on, because regardless if you're big into sports or not, you represent. That's just what you do around here. They take a lot of pride in their sports team. So we have the Penguins, which is hockey, and then we have the Pirates, which, they're okay sometimes, right? Baseball, and then we have the Steelers, of course, which, everyone is obsessed with.
Yes. So everyone, Pittsburgh Pirates that are listening, get it together, man. Get it together. The sports thing. So on the Penguins, they were my backup team for a while because the Islanders had such a long stretch where they were terrible. And as a New York Islanders fan, there's no chance in hell I'm ever rooting for the New York Rangers. So you have to go to the closest team. And I guess I could have gone Boston at the time, but I ended up resonating with Pittsburgh. So there's probably a high school picture or a middle school picture of me in a Pittsburgh Penguins jersey or two. So, but it was out of necessity. The team was horrible in the mid-90s. I had no options, people. I
signed Penguins jersey at Halloween. So I went to this title company party, and they were like, "Oh, you forgot to put your name in the drawing." And I was like, "I never won anything. I just wrote it really quick." And they yelled. They were like, "Oh, you have the goalie." I guess the goalie, Perry.
1-1 in the month of December coming into this one. Tristan Jory, who's been tattooed for 5 goals tonight.
Perry or whatever. It was a signed, nice jersey. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I wore it for Halloween, and took a picture and posted it, obviously. But I've been to a few Pens games, but and a few Steelers games and Pirates games. I don't mind to go. Especially if they're good seats and good food, box seats, with food. To keep me a little,
So let's transition right into that because I think that segues us in perfectly. What kind of food can people expect if they're coming to Pittsburgh? What are you guys known for? And
so Italian food. I did not realize everyone here is Italian, basically Italian or Greek, right? So a lot of Italian food. Pierogies are big. Huge. You have, I'm trying to think what else, cabbage rolls. So we have this Polish restaurant that's in the Strip District, and they're these I'd never had cabbage rolls before I moved here. It's literally stuffed with rice and some sauce, and it's good. I mean, the food is good. I'm from down south originally, so it's very different for me, right? It's not the same, but it's good in its own way.
So what are some of the comforts from home when you say down south? What are some of the comforts you'd go looking for that you may or may not be able to find there?
I mean, you can't find a Bojangles up here, okay?
Okay. So what do you like? What's the Stacy go to at Bojangles?
The chicken supremes with French fries and their honey mustard. Literally, if they don't give me my honey mustard, I will not eat the chicken or the fries. I have to. It's a whole experience.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Bojangles. And what can you find there?
Here?
Yeah. McDonald's Diet Coke.
No, it's a Coke. It's not a Diet Coke. I don't do diet.
Okay. All right. Coke.
I'm petite, so I'm that's my excuse. I'm petite, so I need all the calories. So
I'm massive.
Regular stuff.
Yeah, I'm massive and I don't, so that's my excuse.
But it's only $1. And it's way cheaper than Starbucks. All these people are spending $7 and $8 on Starbucks, and I'm
and I'll have a confessionary moment right now for everyone listening. I have been trying to practice safe McDonalding without ordering things, just the Diet Coke for the $1.09 that it is with tax here. Because let me tell you, it's hard to smell French fries and not want to indulge. And there's a sense of winning with willpower as you drive away with just the Coke in hand. So yeah, but anyway.
So I order, and I hardly ever drink it. Okay, this is the craziest part of me. I order a large Coke, right, and then I always order a large water with it. But typically, I get it to where I take one sip of it, or I don't drink it. But it just makes me feel like I'm making a healthy choice, right?
I like it. So what is one of your favorite go-to places? You mentioned food. Obviously, you enjoy food. If you had to recommend a restaurant to someone visiting into town, what would it be? One place they're there for one night.
I mean, my style is different. I'm a little bougie with what I like. I'm going to be honest. So I would
Like
recommend.
bougie to the point, it's one of those places with like you get this plate and in the middle there's like a dollop of syrup and you have to try and guess what was blended to make that dollop of syrup.
I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad because I don't want to leave hungry. But so I would steer them. Basically, I'm not a fan of it, but Permane Brothers is like known for here, right? It's a lot of like these sandwiches or burgers that have fries on them, like homemade fries and slaw and stuff like that on it. So I would probably direct them there because, you know,
Can't go wrong.
staple here. So yeah.
All right, good, very good. So let's talk a little bit about the real estate. I feel like we've skated around it enough already. If we talk about job availability, would you say that people looking to move into that area would find it easy or challenging to find jobs?
I feel like, especially in comparison to North Carolina, right? Pittsburgh is very recession proof, housing wise, job wise. We have a lot of jobs. We have like tech jobs, we have healthcare jobs, tons of jobs. Definitely more than any, like, again, I lived in the outskirts of Columbus and in North Carolina, and I would say jobs, they're always hiring here. Someone's always hiring. I don't know if people don't want to work or I don't know what's going on, but we always, jobs should never be hard for you to find in Pittsburgh. Hands down.
I would agree with that only from a personal experience that I had when I saw a public access channel in Pittsburgh that literally lists like all the jobs available, like constantly like on a roll, where you could just find like park and recreation jobs, human resources jobs. It's like a public access TV channel. So, I would agree with that. So that's great. And then with jobs, right, comes what are like the schools, as far as commuting? Do you find that people that live towards is it like New York City in the way that you don't find people living in the city of Pittsburgh so much? Like, is it one of those towns that kind of closes down on the weekends and the suburbs around it are really where the families are filled?
I mean, it's a balance. So there are some families that live downtown, like Squirrel Hill, Shady Side, places like that. Most people, I'm not saying all, but most people utilize the private schools there. Some people do utilize Pittsburgh public school systems. I haven't had a lot of clients that have actually moved into the city that have did that, but I would say majority of families that I get that are relocating or moving, into or out of around here, it's been school systems that are in the South Hills or the North Hills for the most part.
Okay, great. So what is the price point that people should expect to budget for when they come over there to start looking?
So the average price point, like when you pull the numbers and all the data, right, it says it's like $222 to $225 for Pittsburgh. But I'm going to argue with that a little bit, just a little bit, because yes, you can get a home for that, right, in some areas of Pittsburgh. But like in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, I would feel like the average price point is still closer to like the 3s or 4s. And the same thing for the North Hills, really. Like, I don't feel like we see a ton of 2s. Like, I just sold one in Beaver County, which is north up beside North Hills, right? It's like northwest.
Okay.
And it was like right at 300. It was like 290 or 280. So yeah, I feel like those numbers are more altered, I guess I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would think that that's because Pittsburgh, I don't know if most people realize, like it's small in comparison to some major cities, but it's pretty big geographically. Like when we talk about Pittsburgh, it's a pretty large area that we're describing. And for those of you who don't know, right, like how far away is attractions like maybe like Hershey Park, right? How far away would Hershey Park be?
So Harrisburg has Hershey Park. I believe it's like 3.5 hours. And then DC is like, so New York is like 5.5 hours from us. DC is maybe 4.5, I think.
Okay.
So we have lots of things that are, we have Nemacolin. Nemacolin's like an hour and 15 minutes. People that watch The Bachelor, that's where they filmed The Bachelor like a couple years ago.
Okay.
I don't watch The Bachelor. I just like to go to Nemacolin, so I just know the connection there. But the guy that started it owned 88 Lumber.
Okay. The lumber distributor. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So then what you mentioned as far as distance for things to do outside of well, actually, I don't think a lot of people realize like you can boat right in the city of Pittsburgh, can't you?
You can. I mean, there were people, 4th of July, I went to a cookout in Mount Washington, and down below, all you saw in the river was like all these boats, right, with people on it. So people boat there. They have these little, like, I don't know, tiki things that are on the water where people drink. And, you know, we have the clipper, the ferry thing that you can eat dinner, and the little rubber duck boat things that people can go on. It's like they
Okay.
drive and the wheels go under and they turn into a boat. It's for tourists.
Nice.
So, and we're getting a little area that's very Jersey Shore-ish, in my opinion, but it's gonna
Okay.
have a Ferris wheel, and so you can oversee, you know, the city and
Yeah.
some things like that. There's a lot to do in the city of Pittsburgh. Like we have a zoo, but there's a lot to do in the city of Pittsburgh if you have family. We have the Carnegie Museum and some stuff like that. So
Awesome. That's great. So what are the general costs of living when we talk about things like let's say property taxes? Like what could somebody expect to pay in property taxes around that like 300 to 400,000?
it depends on the school district and the county. So Allegheny County, I'm gonna just be very transparent with you. Allegheny County is a pain in the ass. Okay, I sold a house in Allegheny County, brand new construction, 686. South Fayette School District, their property taxes are $19,000 some dollars a year.
Is that where Penn State University is located? Is Allegheny close, or is that in Penn State?
Oh yeah, you're thinking of the University of Pittsburgh.
Yes. Okay.
Penn
Sorry.
State College. Yeah.
Okay.
So and so I would say taxes are very high in Allegheny County in comparison to Washington County and Butler County. So yeah.
What are some of the cheaper sides of taxes that you could expect to find then? What if you moved out of that Allegheny area, like yearly? What would you think property tax wise?
If you moved out to save money.
Yeah, like you were saying, Allegheny is the most expensive places. What would be in contrast? What would be one more of the cheaper places?
So one more of the cheaper places would be like Beaver or Washington or Butler.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say one of those two. Yeah.
Are we talking like 1,800 a year, 3,000 a year? What are we?
So again, it depends on school district is a big thing here. So depending on the school district, that's where your taxes go. But if you want, I'll list it really quick. Like some of the highest, because their school district would be Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, South Fayette, Fox Chapel. Those are going to be, if you're and Sewickley, those are going to be your high ones. Even
and that's like 8,000-10,000 when you say high as we're approaching yearly.
I would say more. I sold a $500,000 house and their taxes are $13,000. So
okay, yeah, which is really probably very, very on par with what Long Island is as far as price and tax wise. We're probably on average about 12,000 annually property tax, and that could be a $400,000 to a $500,000 house, something like that. Believe it or not, the city is really where you save some money tax wise, but the prices of the units go up substantially. And like Brooklyn, property taxes might be $1,500 for the year, but you're going to pay $950 for the unit. So it's it's definitely a toss up there, but that's interesting. I didn't expect it to be as high. So that's good to know. So if you're looking to avoid some of those higher property tax points, definitely, mention that to Stacy in your search so that she can start identifying taxes. Now, I would say that a good portion of people that we have transplanting from New York, they're going to be in that retirement phase. So luckily, school district won't be as paramount as it might be for somebody who's just moving in with a family. But, in order to save. Now, what are the communities like as far as characteristics of homes, right? Do you have basements generally? What can you expect?
Can I touch on one thing just really quick?
Yeah, for sure.
So, because I'm sure I'll have an agent that watches this that's from here that corrects me. So our highest millage rate for taxes right here is actually like Wilkinsburg. And that is a Pittsburgh City School District. It is not a highly rated school district, right? So it's not always the school district, but that's like majority of the time it's the school district. Okay. But I will say sometimes, even though the average home price in Wilkinsburg is probably like $100 and some $1,000, they have the highest millage rate. So for property taxes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's funny is that you'll find a lot of people coming in from out of state that move to New York, which I don't know why people do that, but when they do, they say, what's the tax property percentage. Long Island is a beast of its own when it comes to property taxes. Like there's no fixed percentage. There's no amount. There's a fixed percentage as to how much they can increase you year over year, but there's no like exact calculation. More than 50% do go to the property taxes. So when you see higher property taxes, that usually means higher school budget, which equates to like more after school programs and things like that. But, I think we're really blessed to just live in America where arguably the education is better than some and worse than others. So, we're
Great.
lucky. So, yeah, so that's really interesting. Thank you for clarifying that for people, because you're right. There's always going to be somebody else out there with an opinion, but they weren't asked to be on this show, so they can keep their opinions to themselves. So for if you're looking for cheaper, definitely try and point out to Stacy so that we can figure that out. When you start the process for looking for a house, right? We were just talking about characteristics. What are some of the differences inside of Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh specifically? What are characteristics in homes that people may or may not find?
You may not find central air.
Okay.
Right. I noticed that like down south, you're going to find central air because it's hot, right?
Yeah.
You're not always going to find that here. You're not always going to find updated homes here either. We have a lot of older homes. We have a lot of gorgeous older homes, but we also have some homes that were updated in the 80s or the 90s, and they stay that way. Some people feel that that's, you ever watch Pittsburgh Dad on Instagram? If you don't, you should check him out. He depicts a lot of how Pittsburgh is. It's really funny.
Okay. Very cool. What would you say? So when you say older homes, what would you say some of the concerns that buyers should look out for when purchasing some of these houses? What are things that they have to look out for? Is radon like popular near you? Is radon a thing?
Yeah, radon's huge. So being in healthcare nursing, I know that it's, a cause of non-smoking lung cancer, right? So I always stress for people to get that checked. I think if it's over 4.1, they recommend a radon reduction machine. I always tell my clients, hey, if you can afford one, they're like $1,100, get one. I mean, it's for your safety. But yes, radon levels are usually high. I just had an inspection done on a property for a client like in December, and it came back like 7.8.
And for those of you who don't know, would you mind educating? Because actually here on Long Island, radon is really not a problem, because with very few parts of Long Island, most of our soil is sand.
Well, I'm not like, a chemistry major. I was more biology. However,
no, the general premise behind,
right? It's an element that's in the earth, and like it's usually found in basements, and definitely can have a lot of health complications, especially the worst being non-smoking lung cancer. So you definitely want to get that. You're not going to smell it. You're not going to, see it or anything like that. So you need to get that.
And from what I generally understand about it, is reason why it's less of a concern here is because I think it's found in bedrock, where the ground has got a lot of like mountain and rock, so stuff like that. So I think that's why it's less of a concern. But I know once you cross the bridge and you hit New Jersey and things like that, it's much more of a concern. So that's great. So radon tests along with a normal home inspection.
Yeah, so that's an option on our inspection, on our agreement of sale. It's literally like it's a selection that you can put on there.
Do you have to use an attorney when you buy a house there in Pittsburgh?
No. North Carolina, yes. So sometimes that's hard for me, right? Because 2 different states, 2 different ways of doing things. And I was going to tell you too, when we were talking about taxes, one of the homes I sold in North Carolina was in a country club. It was like $600,000 or $700,000, like tons of amenities. The taxes each year were, and it was in a like A-rated school, right? $3,800 a year.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that because I'm really beating you down on Pittsburgh right now, but we're gonna transition over in a couple of minutes over to why you may or may not recommend them buying a house through you in North Carolina instead. So, on this one, home inspection lawyers. No, you don't need a lawyer to buy in Pittsburgh.
Nope. We use title companies. You can use an attorney.
Okay.
Two of the title places I use, they have attorneys. So I just feel more comfortable with it. And there are title places that don't have attorneys, and it's fine. But having to use them in North Carolina, it's
So walk me through the process. I call you up. I'm like, hey, Stacey, I want to buy a house in Pittsburgh. You're like, okay. You show me the house. We get the offer accepted. I'm ready to move forward. Who draws up those contracts? Who should I expect to sign them with? You or the title company?
Me. Well, you sign things with both, but the actual contract, you sign it with me. You DocuSign it, unless you're a dinosaur. You DocuSign it.
Be nice to the dinosaurs. Not that I know if any of them have figured out how to listen to our podcast yet, but some of them might.
It's okay. I mean, hey, I will travel to sign it. I'm just people in our. My dad can figure it out. He's 63 and he can't figure out how to e-sign or DocuSign things.
Yeah, so my dad's got like 10 years on your dad, and he calls it the Google, so I'll just leave it at that.
It's not safe to put it in the Google either.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't use that checking because it's dangerous.
Exactly. So, all right. So they go through you, they get the deal, they get the title company. Typically, how long does it take to close? And when you set a closing date there, is that like a fixed closing date? Is it like kind of a roundabout closing date? I mean, how on point do they have to be with moving in by that date?
We have to do a CTA. If we're not, like, it should only be changed if both parties agree, right? Or if there's like a holdup with lending or a holdup with title, something like that. Typically, 2021, early 2022, we were seeing closings in like 25 to 30 days. We're still seeing like 30 and 45 day close now, but there are some people, if they have a sale contingency on another home, they take 60 days to, close.
Yeah. One of the challenges, if you get any transplants from New York, is we have an on or about closing date written into our contracts, which gives you an automatically built in 30 days before or 30 days after that proposed 60-day. So a lot of mistake that a lot of our viewers will make is they'll go ahead, they'll find you. They'll say, hey, Stacey, I'm ready to buy a house. Anthony just sold my house in New York. And they say, great, when's the closing date? And they say, about 60 days. So you guys enter into a contract for 75 days, figuring that you're giving yourself 2-week time, when in actuality, now the buyer has an additional 30 days to close. And that's only the beginning of the mess when you miss your expected closing date, because after 30 days, there's a whole procedure that you have to go to in order to get them to start jumping through those hoops. So everyone watching and listening, if you're planning on transplanting to another state, you have to make sure that you communicate and put your real estate agents in communication. I can't tell you what a big mistake it is. Stacey and I, whether we know each other or not, we're on the same team in getting that transaction successfully done. And so many people make the mistake of not introducing their real estate agents who communicate the most important parts of the deal. Yes, we're happy to know that the house has a porch. We're happy to know that it's down the block from the creek that your husband wants to fish in. But we're more happy to know that the closing date is obtainable and that we're going to have a successful transaction for everyone involved, because nothing will be more disappointing than when that deal falls apart.
Or better, let your agent refer you to an agent that they know and they trust in another area. That's a huge thing I try to stress, even if I don't sell a home. Like, I probably, and you probably do too, because on Instagram, we know people in all these states. Such a huge difference, because even if we're not on it and we just refer them, we can still hover over it a little bit and kind of keep it on track. And people don't realize how huge communication between agents, lenders, title, all that is. It's essential to a smooth deal.
Yep. Very well said. And that's the purpose of our show here. We try to interview rock star agents so people know exactly where to go to. To call me when you're ready to sell the house, and now to call Stacey when you're ready to go to Pittsburgh. But not only will this nice lady sell you a house in Pittsburgh, but she will also sell you a house in
North Carolina.
Okay. Whereabouts in North Carolina do you love to sell houses?
So I'm from Western North Carolina, right? So would love to do it. Boone, Blowing Rock, Hickory, Lenore, Granite Falls. Those areas, would love to work those areas. That's where my family's from. That's where I have a lot of family. Went to high school there, all of that. I have serviced Raleigh as well, which is 4 hours more west, more east. I'm blonde.
You've just moved so many times you can't figure it out. It's okay.
There we go. Yeah. But it's 4 hours more. But I actually I know a lot about the state as a whole. I primarily do want to do listings there for the most part, but I will take buyers, and again, I will refer them to someone that's there that can, service them all the time there, but I will literally hover over that agent to make sure everything goes, not micromanage, but just make sure they're taken care of, right? I mean, that's what you do.
You, in your introduction, you were nice enough to tell us who you are and where you're from, so you know where to look Stacy up in both. So let's touch base on North Carolina a little bit. You gave us a huge discount in taxes by giving us a great comparison, saying that you had a country club sale, all these awesome amenities, great price, and the taxes were only like $3,800.
Yeah.
So with the huge savings in taxes, what are some of the other benefits to moving to North Carolina over, let's say, a bigger city like Pittsburgh, if you're looking to retire? And again, if you're listening to this and you're going to retire from Pittsburgh and move to North Carolina, I mean, Stacy's your girl.
So cost of living. I mean, cost of living is cheaper down south. Gas is cheaper down south. Food, I'm not going to lie, everything is cheaper down there in comparison to up here. But again, it has to be a good fit for, the summers are hot there. I mean, they're hot. It's hot as hell sometimes. Like, you're going to sweat, and there's mosquitoes, and, but also there's a lack of sun here in Pittsburgh from October to April. Like, it's as gray as Seattle. I don't know if you know that. Literally, you have to take vitamin D to supplement. Your levels will plummet.
New York's not much better. I don't know why people think we get all this sun here, but like it sucks from October to April, and we don't open our pools until May, and then you're closing them again by September. So we don't really get that much summer and sun time here. So
yeah. So, and also North Carolina, a lot of people don't know. They'll say, well, oh, it's snowy and cold here in Pittsburgh. Like, you don't know that, but yeah, I do. So like Boone, North Carolina, we get snow there. We have like 5 ski slope places, right? Ski resorts. And a lot of people don't know, like, we do get in the mountains of North Carolina there in Asheville, we do get snow. We do get very cold temperatures, windy, stuff like that. Yeah.
So about how far did you grow up away from Asheville?
So I moved a couple times as a child. My parents were divorced, so I moved a couple times. I grew up in Lenore for a little while, which is an hour and a half from Asheville. And then Boone, which is like an hour from Asheville.
Okay. Yeah, it's on my checklist of places to get to, but like the Blue Mountain, right? Isn't that the trail in Asheville? The Blue Mountain Trail, isn't that
Blue Ridge Mountain?
Blue Ridge Mountain, that's the one. See?
Yeah, Blue Ridge Mountain. Yes, it's amazing. But if you go to Asheville, the Biltmore House is a must. Yeah, a must. And I never say this right, but Pasai, those mountains are very nice.
Okay. What else would you do down in North Carolina? We know we go to Bojangles and get the honey mustard, and don't make that mistake. The barbecue?
Barbecue, yeah. Barbecue is, huge. So there's distant relatives that own a barbecue place in North Carolina, in my family. It's a huge thing down there. We are known for, the western part of North Carolina is known for vinegar-based barbecue sauce on their barbecue. The eastern side is ketchup-based sauce. Vinegar wins every time.
Vinegar wins every time. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it does. It's just way better.
All right. Key to Stacy's heart is a vinegar-based barbecue sauce, guys. You heard it here first. So the food, barbecue, what would the average price point of homes be? I don't think we touched on that for North Carolina. What could you find there for a deal?
So it varies. Like if you're looking in the Lenore area, you're looking around like 200,000, 180 to 200,000, right? And if you're looking in Hickory, you're looking more around like 250 to 300. If you're looking in Boone or Blowing Rock, it's mountains, you have great views. It's like a Hallmark town, right? I mean, it really it's amazing. You're looking at a lot more. You're looking at like 500,000 to like over $1 million.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, if you want to get caught by a bearded guy in a plaid shirt during Christmas time who's going to whisk you away to his villa, you're going to want to hang out in that town.
Yes.
Okay. And they come with money because the price is right over there, apparently. Very expensive.
It is very expensive. So we have Appalachian State is in Boone. Penn State.
Okay.
No, football. Yeah. It's pretty big now. It used to be a really small college, but now we're known for our football team. So it's good.
I feel like Long Island got robbed for football because, Buffalo gets the Bills and New Jersey gets the Jets and Giants. Like, it's not even right? Like, the fact that Meadowlands is not even in the state of New York is like, it's the only thing that I think New Jersey can claim outside of Atlantic City, which I'm pretty sure they're ready to write off at this point. But, it's interesting how we don't get much football. So it's not like big college football. Lacrosse is really big here, which I always find really interesting. But
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It could not, like, I'm not a sports person, but I just, you have to be athletic to play it, but I probably would not be interested for long.
Lacrosse?
No.
I have never watched a single game of lacrosse. Growing up on Long Island, there are people I know that have gone to college, they've done scholarships, and it's been a big part of your life. I'm really happy for you, but I would know nothing of the sport at all if I just didn't know that it exists here. Hockey, we are blessed to have the Islanders on the island, though, and we do have 2 baseball teams. So we're, I guess, greedy in that way. 3 hockey teams when you count the Sabres, but Buffalo is just so far away. It feels like a part of Michigan at this point. So what other recommendations would you make for people that are considering moving out of state? You've transplanted a couple of times. What's a friendly piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's considering making the jump?
Okay, so if you have kids, research your school systems, right? I have children. I have multiple children, and you can go on niche.com as agents. It's a fair housing violation for us to say this is a good school, this is a bad school. However, I'm not going to do my clients a disservice and say, I can't say anything and tell you nothing else. I literally will tell them to call if they want to know about safety or anything. I will tell anyone in any state looking, call the local police departments, look online. Google is sometimes not your friend, but in this situation, it's your friend. Go to niche.com. There are like goodschoolreports.com or something like that, I think.
Good schools. Yeah, good schools or greatschools.org. I think it's greatschools.org is the one we usually send over to them. Greatschools.org.
Yeah. And I mean, just looking at, here's the thing too, full transparency, like, I've had my kids have went to a private school. They've also went to a public school, and a public school that's rated, exceptionally well, to a public school that was like maybe 3 out of 10. And realistically, you can't sometimes go by those ratings. So sometimes dig a little deeper than what the rating is and read into reviews and read into like the socioeconomic differences in those school districts,
Yeah. And we're gonna place the blame right where it belongs on this topic, which is the parents. Your child's school experience is going to be exactly what you make it. Be really honest with you. The teachers may not be up to snuff. There might not be all the after school programs, maybe the music program you're not working for, but education here in America as a whole is some of the better education that you can get in the entire world. Arguably worse in some areas, but definitely better than a lot of areas. So if you're, on a budget or whatever it is, any reason for choosing any place to send your kids to school, it's going to be the experience that you give them. right? How well
Yeah.
prepared you send them to school, right? You know, and how much initiative you took in their education. Did you expect a teacher to do all the work, or did you sit down and put a little hand time in with those kids? Because I certainly have been around long enough and seen enough kids come through, fail, and not do well. And you know, me personally, I'm not a very good school student, but you know, I can tell you that as a creative, I love the subjects that interest me. So if you got kids out there that have interesting subjects, take an interest in what they like, push them to pursue things. And I guarantee that even if it's not a good school with good ratings, some of the most gifted minds have come out of some of the worst school districts in America. So I think that the school rating system is completely flawed and biased in some ways, and I'm sure some of those votes are being purchased or paid for. I mean, Lord knows that to be a Zillow Premier agent, you have to pay a Zillow Premier fee. It's not a Zillow Premier choice over Premier people. It's a subscription-based advertisement service that people can pay to be a part of, and I would refuse to believe that the American school system is in any different of a business institution than the rest of us are all stuck in.
Right.
So some of those schools are able to go out there and buy those votes, and some of them aren't, and some of them have some of the best teachers, and some of them have the biggest budgets and worst teachers. And I would argue that, you know, do that research. I think Stacy makes an excellent point into diving in and doing the homework yourself as far as that goes. Any other things outside of the school that you would say is important?
I would add to the school thing. I could add this. I know in Pennsylvania, we have a lot of the, we'll call them underprivileged school districts is what they call them here. They get a lot of government funding. So they actually have a lot of like after school things for your kids. Those are the schools that actually have free lunches, no matter what your income is. So there are benefits to some, like the actual like college credit courses for high school. Those are typically covered at the parents and the kids aren't paying it. So look into all those things because there's pros and cons to all of it.
Right. And, you know, one of the things that I like to personally do, you know, because a lot of my members of the team right now are more involved in the actual transaction process. In fact, hunting you down for this podcast was more of my sale of the month. But it's certainly, it's one of my favorite things to give people like a tour of the island and allowing them to see firsthand what it's going to be like. Because when someone paints good or bad picture on an area, right? Like automatically, like you either have these really high expectations, like, hey, I want you to meet my amazing friend. Like your friend was trash, right? Like, or, you know, like, hey, you know, this place is terrible. And then you happen to go there on a whim and you have the best meal you've ever had in your life. And you're like, there's so many variables to things. Like, you know, you have to believe that like just one bad headline is equivalent to that chef having just one bad day, right? Like where maybe the food was off for one day and it caused a ruckus and like, yeah, they almost burnt the village down, but like it didn't make the food bad. And I think that some of these school districts and things like that, you know, they get a bad rap. So that's really a good point as far as the extra school programs. Like that's awesome insight. So please, guys, like heed that. Go and see it yourself. Don't just take our recommendation for it. Stacy will point you in the direction of where to go to the school, meet the people, go look around, right? That's really what it's important. So
I know as like personally, like I've attended an inner city school. I went to 8 different schools growing up. So I have attended not a prestigious school, right? But a high rated public school. And then I've also attended inner city schools. So I know the difference as a child, you know, there's good and bad to all. So I know it from a child aspect and I know it from an adult aspect. So yeah.
That's awesome.
People have like, you know, these ideas when you're as an adult, you're put together. So they never think that maybe you had that as a childhood. Do you know what I mean? They don't, you know, you're privileged or something, but you're not.
A lot of people forget that a good 3 years of my life was spent in a single wide mobile home with my sister in a bunk bed, right? And we're 7 years apart, and I think I was like 13. So for those of you doing the math on that, guys, like, okay, like it's not fun to be sharing a room with your little sister when you're 13 years old, right? Like it's you know, and the walls are cardboard because it's a friggin' mobile home. Like we've all been there, right? I think that, and for those of us who haven't, like, you're truly blessed in this world. And but it's definitely I am really happy for those experiences in my life. They make me really well-rounded. It's why I have listings that have sold this year that will range between 1.6 and 109 in a mobile home community, and I'm proud of both equally as much, because the impact that I'm making for my seller at 109,000 to be able to move on and take her son to a state where she can afford to live a little bit of a better life, because her normal job here, which I fully respect, it doesn't really cut the bills here. It's just so expensive.
Right.
Her land lease alone for this mobile home is $1,100 a month. For those of you who are like trying to put this into perspective, right? We're talking $11,000 a year property taxes to park your mobile home on it. Right? Versus there could be a plot of land out there right now that this poor woman could buy for maybe $20,000-$30,000 and get herself a water hookup and give her son like actual life, right? Instead of he just works every day tirelessly, day in and day out. And my heart shatters for these people. I try to do my best to give off as much commission as I can and barely charge her anything to try to get her out and off, because our job as real estate agents, we have bills to pay too. We have families to support. Some of us live a little more nicer lifestyles than others. But for the most part, right, our job is to help people find a home, which I take so seriously, because it's the most important things in anyone's life. And the minute you don't have a home is the minute you start understanding how important they are. So some people panic during this interest rate thing. And I'm like, all I see is people crying that they're not going to be able to go on an extra vacation per year, which sucks budget wise. But all in all, we really got to, look at the bigger picture in life and realize that it's truly important to prioritize your home, because there's some people out there that can't even afford to buy one. And it's just so, I don't know. I take it very seriously. Sorry, I got off on a rant. But
no, you're fine. I listed 2 mobile homes this year, actually. That I sold 2 mobile. They were referrals from previous clients. So, and they literally told me, like, I don't know if you'll take this because I don't know if, you work with this. A good agent will work with any price range, is what I say. Like, a good agent will not going to turn a referral from, especially from a previous client that you had a great experience with, right? Like, you're not going to turn that away. And it was a good opportunity, to service those clients, and they were super happy. So
I like to say that I sell houses, but I work with people.
Right.
Like, I don't work with houses. That's a structure. Right. And I love the relationship I get out of the people that I work with. And, all of my clients, I think, know. And if I've never said it enough, I love you all very much, regardless of your price point of your house. So, all right, we got off on a tangent there. We're sorry. But anything that you want to add for anybody listening that's looking to, where do they find you, Stacey?
So you can find me on Facebook, Stacey Coolball Realtor. I have a professional page there, and then Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram. So if you send a message on Facebook, I'm probably not going to check it because I never check my messages on Facebook. Instagram is called Move Me to Pittsburgh. My niche is relocations, right? That's what it is, because I deem myself a relocation expert, by experience as well.
You've earned that title, clearly, if you guys haven't been listening closely enough.
Right. Yes. So Move Me to Pittsburgh. And I use that for North Carolina as well, just because actually I moved someone from Raleigh, North Carolina to Pittsburgh. So
amazing.
Yeah. And I'm on
all right.
Same handle, Move Me to Pittsburgh. My website's Move Me to Pittsburgh. So
you really, if you're looking to move to Pittsburgh and you have listened to this podcast on moving out, then go to movetopittsburgh.com, go to Move to Pittsburgh on any social media site except for Facebook. Use Stacy Coolbuzz, cool name,
Right.
and get her business page on there. Don't bother her personally. She doesn't want to be bothered personally. She wants your business though. Respectfully and nicely send her a message and ask her what's up. She has all kinds of awesome stats for you guys. If you're not following her, give her a follow. I've learned a lot about Pittsburgh this evening and Raleigh, North Carolina, along with Boone and a couple of other places that are going to stick out. And I'm going to have to go through Bojangles the next time I go down south and try to get some hands. Well, yeah, the barbecue's a given. I mean, here in New York, we get a couple of barbecue places that pop up. We got good diversity in food here. I have to give us credit as far as, just because we're such a large melting pot. And COVID did wonders for Long Island because all these people just got sick of not having backyards in Manhattan, and they just fled for the burbs out here. And we did really well transplanting a lot of people with their restaurants, their food, their culture. So we're really starting to we have one or two decent barbecue places on Long Island, but we could certainly use more. And there's nothing like Southern barbecue where somebody takes time to smoke brisket for 3 days and put love and care into it. And I'm getting hungry already because it's getting late. So well, yeah, awesome. Well, this was a lot of fun, and I appreciate you taking time out. I know that I kept catching you. You were maybe down out once or twice, so I appreciate you sticking with us and seeing this through. We look forward to having you back in the future so we could have a market update, find out what's going on there. Anything people should know before, a little checklist of what they need to get prepared before they call you?
Not really. I'm pretty down to earth. Not going to irritate you. I'm not going to be, crazy salesperson. What you see is what you get. So that's it.
Perfectly said. Guys, go and use Stacy and call me if you need to sell your house here in New York. Doesn't matter where, we'll get it done for you and we'll get you moving out over to Pittsburgh. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.